1, 2, 3, 4.
Alchemy of the Extraordinary. Alchemy of the Extraordinary is a 5-stage practice that teaches creativity. It can be creativity about anything, but it's a very technical practice in a way. And specifically in this version that we're doing here in Athens is to teach devised theatre. Devised theatre is really the kind of theatre that I both have done all my life. I've sort of pioneered, and it's really been, I suppose, the theatre that has made me who I am. And so this 5-stage practices: preparation, origination, organization, manifestation, and reflection. These are all the fingers, as it were, of the goddess of creativity. And so during our workshop, the students will learn this 5 stages. And as a complement to that as well is the idea of our stories, ourselves, and our emotional selves, which is the study of the child, which is really about what is this world, what is it? The adolescent is, I know what it is, but how do I fit in? How do I find the group that'll allow me to fit in? And the very powerful emotions that exist in adolescence. And the whole thing is really wrapped in the wisdom of the elder, that is to say, the person who knows about the world and can interconnect these different parts. And these are very, very important to the understanding of the whole process. And so Alchemy of the Extraordinary are these basic elements woven together in a 4-week training at the moment in devised theatre. And so we decided to condense what was 6 weeks into 5 weeks, but put it in a 4-week span. In other words, we removed some elements around physical theatre, some elements around ensemble work, and a little bit less of the discursive work. And also, this was much more about growing the individuals in the group rather than the group as such. And hence, it meant that at the end, they weren't focusing so much on the performance, which is, I think, kind of gets in the way of it. And I think that was the feedback from people. I think that a difference that maybe we'd like to try, which one of the participants suggested, Marcos, is that perhaps we, in our 4th week, we have 3 days in the theatre first and then return to the studio and have 3 days in the studio where we can really integrate into their personal practices what they've been learning. And I think this is a really good idea. So each year we're making improvements. I don't believe really in doing iterations unless each time you're thinking about what happened and improving upon it. I think the other thing was that I feel very confident about handing over a lot of this work to Karina and Simon, who are at the moment basically creating the framework for all to happen in the studio, and also Simon with his version in the book, which has taken nearly 2.5 years now to write. So I think we come to an end of this alchemy with a lot of learning and a lot of integration of that learning into how we move forward. And this is happening at a time of great change out in the world, when I think creativity is needed more than ever, but also more specifically the culture of the company is growing and becoming more robust, and developing some of our associates like Karina and Simon to be able to take alchemy on beyond myself. And I think that's one of the things that I really feel is that it's needed to go beyond my teaching of it. And although I love teaching and I love teaching it, I think in other people's hands it'll go into new places that I haven't even thought of or dreamed of or expected. And so it's finding the balance between remaining within the practice and the technical aspects of that, and how to work with people, individuals and groups on it, at the same time seeing how it is used out in the wider world. And I think because the creative practice in which the alchemy is based on has been growing inside of me and has been growing outside of me with different versions of it, with different organizations around the world, I keep on being renewed by it, and I think one of the important aspects that I became very interested in this time as well was the idea of what a fragment is and how that fragment then sort of has time around it. If you spend time with that fragment, that is to say an idea, an image, a moment, something you actually have inside your mind, an image or something you see in the outside world. And around that, time coalesces and it creates a kind of a heightened quality around the fragment. So this is a moment. We often say that, oh, that was a bit of a moment. I was aware of something. And it connects, I feel, this time round much more clearly with the idea of élan, and making good contact with the fragment, the suspension away from the fragment, the energy the fragment has, and also the pleasure of it. And I think when you observe fragments, it gives you pleasure in the same way as a child who used to notice things. And I thought that really seemed to reveal itself more strongly, and I think it was partly because of the meditation they're doing, partly in the nature of the group, that they were noticing what a fragment is. And I think if there's any area that I would like to develop, it is that work around fragments, moments, and then an episode. And I feel that we've just begun to scratch the surface of this idea of what an episode is. And an episode, I think, is to do with meaning. I think a moment is to do with something that's felt. You feel there's something deeper there, something that connects you to this fragment around time. But an episode is a series of moments put together that have meaning, whatever that meaning is. I mean, a simple idea is when you go into a shop and you buy something and you leave the shop, the episode was the going into the shop. And although it seems very obvious, you're there to fulfill some sort of want. Yes, so I think by condensing certain aspects of it, this will focus certain things, and I think this will really help the whole process a little bit. And then the other thing that I think that maybe I want to think about a bit more is about the idea of what a manifestation is, and to experience manifestations. Whether this is because they do work and manifest them a bit more, and I point out what is appearing. But I think what's really interesting about storytelling is you feel the intention of the storyteller or the story. There's an intention behind it. You're constantly, or when it's good, there is a kind of, it holds you like a confidence. You feel there's an intention, and it's an emotional thing. A little bit like, and it goes back to the exercise of when you're closing your eyes and you're leading somebody. I think that exercise is really, in a way, an aspect of manifestation, that you have contact with someone, physically, emotionally, and then you lead them on a journey. And I think when you're making a piece of theatre, you have to take care of the audience, and you have to take care of the story. In the way that you bring a child up or something, it's the same thing. So there's something about manifestation that I would like to clarify a bit more. You need to create kind of a small idea of a school, but school where you could come and do it as modules, which I really like. I think it's the future in many ways, especially people who have studied a lot already, and don't just want a rejuvenation. They actually want again first principles, and I think the idea of first principles in alchemy is an important thing, and the same thing in physical theatre, the same thing in chorus and ensemble. And so that really excites me, is the idea of creating a school based on first principles, which is rich, built around the people, and is evolving. And so I think that'll be an important departure. And the last thing I think is that, especially for this next phase, when we come back and do a third take at this, is the way that people like Karina and Simon and anybody else that might grow the training can take it beyond. Because one of the problems with so-called systems created by individuals is it kind of lives on and dies with those people. But what Lecoq did is he had teachers that actually worked in the school and grew aspects of that. And I think that'll be really interesting, the growing of aspects. Not for now, but slowly. So that really excites me. And I think all of this excites me because it's handing something over to students, people who have great experience in theatre, growing things with our associates, other artists in different communities, and also the handing over, which is the sort of the work that I'm calling the ARC project really at the moment, which is taking stuff and trying to find a way forward at this time of enormous destruction and regeneration. So I'm feeling very positive coming away from the 4 weeks and looking forward to the future.